9:01. It is 9:01. Hey, Jim. Jim, we're gonna get ready. We're gonna get ready to start. All right. So here, I just want to kick off a couple of things. We've got an election coming up, so be aware that the city is going to be handling these elections. It is one we haven't done in a while, and it's something we've had to deal with based off of Harris County, basically pulling up and leaving a lot of the municipalities cold. But I believe there's a good number of volunteers who have stepped up. I think it's, we're going to go back to simplicity, which is a paper machine rather than all the digital stuff. So you may see, Back to the Future or whatever you want to call it. But it makes it easy on the city budget, and it also I think is an easier process just for people who haven't done it. And I certainly didn't want to make a lot of the investments that would have to mean we would be responsible for elections for the next 5 years. After this election, we're really going to have some serious discussions with other municipalities in Harris County because I think they kind of left us hanging. And but what I would say is, come out and vote, but also be aware that the election workers are your neighbors. They haven't done this before. They're getting trained and everything like that. So as anything, take it down a notch and just be thankful that we got a lot of people who are helping out with the city. Be kind. The other thing too, and Paul doesn't know I'm going to say this, but I've been gone on vacation. I appreciate people texting me, letting me know what's going on. But when you move away from something for like a little over 2 weeks and come back, I cannot tell you how proud I am of how the city's looking right now. The city staff, the city employees, the volunteers, they particularly right after, and we're going to say some stuff about beautification, day, but the things between trimming of trees, trimming of crepe myrtles, besides the murder that's taking place up on Nassau Road 1, the street sweeping, all that you can just tell is starting to really gel. And I'm very pleased with how the city's looking and the investments that we've done. The work on the streets with the cleaning of the streets, water now goes right into the sewers and they kind of self-clean. You can tell that it's just the city looks good, and it makes me very proud of what the cities and the staff are doing and the volunteers. So I just want to make mention of that. I hope others are seeing that too, because it's pretty apparent to me. So with that, I'll pass over to you.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had since we last met, we've had a lot of good things happen. First thing was the NASA Bay honored the volunteers on the fire department, and it was a really good turnout. Tom George received, I'm trying to see on here, I think it's 35 years of service, and so. Give a big shout out to the fire department. They're always doing a lot of things, and a lot of things that the residents don't realize is they work a lot of weekends and save a lot of money, a lot of taxpayers' money for things down there. The whole Leeward fire department dock, that was almost all done by volunteers out there. So really proud of that.
Just to help quantify that, we've actually looked at it, and I just. People have heard me say this again, but sometimes it doesn't sink in. We probably save about $1.3 million a year with that volunteer fire department, just on what it would take to have a paid fire department if we did not have the volunteers, and they are absolutely recognized as the best volunteer fire department in this region. I'm not talking just this specific district. I mean They are very well known. They respond. They're very well respected, and they do a great service to the city.
Hey, Phil. So, a question on that: is there still a plan to put a permanent air-conditioned building there? They have their temporary one they built that's mobile on wheels. So is
no?
that
So this was a very conscious decision to not make it permanent, because if we had to make it permanent, it would have to gone up 19 feet. It would have had to be, FEMA compliant. And if you look at that, there's a power station right beside there that is, I think it's 17 feet. I mean, our building is, BFE +2. But that gives you a feel for how high the base floor would have had to have been. And we felt that was obstructive. And I have to say this, the Nassau Bay Fire Department were the ones who actually came up with the idea of making it mobile. We can then pull it out in case a big storm, and then, again, the demobilize to remobilize for a catastrophic event. And it doesn't create anywhere near the obstruction to the water, the things there. So kudos to the volunteer fire department. I think it was a great idea. Supported it.
Good solution. It's like a tiny house on wheels. It even has that little AC unit on there that they call a mini split.
Correct. And I do believe they're still looking at for that power station that's there, that hook up we're planning on putting a lighthouse just as an aesthetic appeal, nothing functional, anything like that. There won't be lights going around and people's windows. I gotta do the disclaimers, guys. I gotta do the disclaimers. But there's going to be a faux lighthouse just to again, not make it not look so mechanical right there. So that's good. And not only that, what's really great about that, and I don't mean to steal your thunder, but I mean, it's the Parks and Wildlife, the sheriffs, Coast Guard all know that, and I'm going to be real blunt here, that point is there. And that if there needs to be relief for people out in the public service out on the water, they know they can come in and get out real quickly, but it means they pass through our waters, which I love. I think it's just great. Okay, sorry about that.
Oh, no. Beautification Day was a really nice event. Took a lot of pictures, visited a lot of the volunteers. It was really, really nice. And we actually still have some more to do on the medians and get some more flowers out. And then on that,
Should be done this weekend, right?
we're planning, hopefully something.
Yeah, correct.
Planning with the Parks Committee. And then also got a quote. We're hoping a lot of the stuff would come back on Saturn Media and the plants and the bushes, and it didn't. So we got a quote to replace everything that's dead out there. So we'll be looking at the funding for that. So hopefully that's what we'll go through here pretty quick. And then also, yes, ma'am.
Does that include that palm tree along the boardwalk?
Yeah, so we're going to replace that. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
it does.
Yeah.
It does.
And actually, we have 3 palm trees on Martinique facing the lake that they've been removed. So we're going to get those replaced also too. Yeah.
So this has been generally the NASA area management districts responded, but we're looking at partnering on a couple of things with them. So, we are very much wanting to light the trees that have been planted out in Nass Road 1 that's not, as well as really get, as Paul said, because it was really his initiative, was to get the that Saturn area right there all redone. And if you remember, right at the entrance of Saturn off Nass Road 1, there used to be Majules there too. And we want to go back we want to replace that, but that's probably the one that's stretching our budget, and we got to figure it out. But that's the intent.
Yeah.
So.
And if you notice on Saturn, when you leave, the Public Works guys probably finished putting up the banners. We used to have, the different moon tree banners and just different things. We have the American flag banners, which look really good. So that's 12 new banners on Space Park and Saturn. So when you go out there, it looks really, really nice. We've been kind of kicking around the idea. I had a lot of people ask me, hey, when y'all put up the flags on NASA Parkway, they look really good. And I actually had other cities reach out to me and say, how are they so straight? How are they? And I have to give a little secret, and that we have a steel pipe in them, but we are still the ones that are looks really good. So
It's putty. It's really
yeah.
putty.
And so they've asked about, well, why don't we just leave them up year round? So that's something that we're looking into. It looks really, really good. And on that, our next Street Eat event is May 18th, and that is Armed Forces Day. So the theme will be Armed Forces. We got all the Armed Forces flags in. They will be on the right in front of the Marriott, right that intersection. The band, we've got one band coming that's a variety of different music, and then the other band is the young country singer Trey from the Faye that was on American Idol. He will be here. So we're looking at that's going to be a really good event. We're pretty excited about it. Then it's going to be followed by the Public Works Week, and then we have Fire Week, Public Service
Can I
Week.
say one thing about what I really like about the Street Eats being on May 18th is this is being done in conjunction with the Reed family, Chris Reed family, and this is where we're going to unveil formally the moving of the Chris Reed plaque so that it's in its rightful place. And we always had wanted to have the Street Eats with that, and given Chris's military background and in regards to his service to our country, as well as it being armed forces, as well as Street Eats, and as well as all the things, it just seems like a kaleidoscope of things came together. And I think it was a great idea to do that.
Yeah,
I really like it.
yes,
On the
ma'am.
Armed Forces
Huh?
Day, I'm wondering if you checked with anyone at Ellington or if we could get a flyby.
Good
Oh,
idea.
you know, that's a
That's a
great
great- yeah.
idea. I bet we can.
That you can.
I bet we can.
Okay.
That's a
Yeah,
great idea.
I come from a military family.
Yep.
yeah. So do I. Yeah. So do I.
That would be really
Yeah.
cool.
It would be nice.
And then following that week, this will be the first year that the for the Texas Water Utilities Association is putting on their Public Works picnic, which is really big. It's going to be in Alvin this year, and we're going to have our Public Works cooking team entered. And so I think there's like 30 teams. It's like 1,000 people show up, mostly all Public Works. So we're pretty excited about that. Some of the staff is going to be joining them in the evening and hanging out, helping them cook. And then the next day will be the judging, and it's really nice. So we're hoping we'll bring a trophy back to Nassau Bay.
We got to get a snazzy name for it.
Yeah, they're
know?
coming up, and actually part of the agreement was Sebastian is going to be from the Parks Department is going to be head cook-off. He's going to lead the team, but he's also going to cook a brisket for staff the next Monday, and so it brings staff to be involved a little bit. So it's going to be we're pretty excited about it. So, and we'll be using the fire department huge barbecue trailer. We've got the Public Works flags ordered, the banners and everything. So we're pretty excited about that.
I'm with Bill. You need a clever name for your
Yeah. We had a site visit for David Brown Park restroom. One of the contractors that has built a few of them. It's going to be, we'll get a quote, state of the art, the latest in parks or restrooms. I don't know how fancy it could be, but, so we'll look at that.
Bigger and cleaner.
Bigger and cleaner, yeah.
So
Yes.
the question on that is the plan to demolish it all and rebuild?
Yes.
It's kind of a
Right.
shame because the structure itself looks good.
Yeah, and we'll be getting a quote, and also we're looking at if we have to have it elevated,
Yeah,
and if it does, then that may be way out of our budget.
It's right now open as to exactly what the answer is, Pete, because we don't want to lose anything that FEMA gives us as a grandfather. At the same time, I like you're right, the building's there, but it's too small now. It's just we need, I don't know if that means we can add on to it and make one just the women's and one's a men, and just add one or the other. something like that. Again, I don't want to be prescriptive here because we want to do what's economically right. But it's those, everybody, I mean, I'm not telling anybody anything. Anybody goes down there. In fact, you come there in the middle of the weekend or the morning of, and there's toilets that are plugged, there's trash. It's just too small for the people that are down there. And I don't believe we're going to have fewer people coming to our parks. I believe with the number of kids and families coming in, there's going to be more. So this problem's only going to get worse over the next 5-10 years. Personal opinion.
We have, I'm
Maybe
sorry.
if you leave a portion of that structure there, will FEMA let you do
We
that?
think.
Yeah, that's what we'll be looking. Yes, ma'am.
I mean,
Rather than tearing the whole thing down.
We're hoping that, I mean, there's little tricks of the trade that can be done, so that if we have to do some things, we may have to, again, looking at how we power it or how we do things or how we get a waiver. But, at the end of the day, FEMA's pretty diligent, and I don't want to risk other things that the city's violating something because that FEMA flood, national flood insurance, program is real important to us. So, I mean, like real important to us.
Some of the other things we got going on, real excited about the water plant new booster pump installation. They got the pump in and the VFD was installed. So now they're getting the breakers put in and all that. So we'll start seeing an increase of water pressure. And that'd be great for the firefighting capabilities in Nassau Bay.
Well, I was going to ask, I heard before through different churches of mine, or Glory Day, that's been kind of a popular, not a tourism spot, business to do it, and it's a scouting business there, got a tour of the plant.
The wastewater treatment plant?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know they've had it.
I think the scouts from St. Thomas did.
They did in Troop 1966, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then
That's the number of it. I've gotten
uh,
number of our citizens in there. That's why it's embedded in my head.
And at the wastewater plant, got a new catwalk that was installed. They're finishing up that project. A new on the debris box where everything comes in. We've got that a brand new one out there. So we're doing a lot of things to the water and wastewater plant. And then a big shout out to code enforcement. Tony and Perry have really been stepping it up. High grass. They actually notified me last week about the big ugly green box by Shell Station.
Correct.
And
It's going. I don't know
yep.
if anybody's seen that.
Yeah, we got that going yesterday. And it's the company's out of business and they just left their big box there. So we got it, took it out. So they're making rounds in the city, making sure everything looks good. It's a constant daily thing.
How about the dead tree? I don't know if it's on Valero's property, but they had some kind of a box, electrical box, and they put these two tall, I can't remember what kind of they are, tall skinny trees beside it, and one of them is dead.
Is dead.
Okay.
That's true.
Take a look
Yep.
at that.
But I think that's probably their.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that.
Take that dead tree down.
In my mind, if it's in our easement, I don't think we have to wait either. Just saying.
Our mosquito sprayers getting calibrated right now. Probably start spraying for mosquitoes next week. We'll monitor. And then we're also, another city has reached out to me and heard about our mosquito spraying program, how good it was. And so I've been talking with another city. They may want to come do a little ride along and see how we do operations here for mosquitoes. So
And also, are we doing our own Nassau Bay schedule, or are we still following?
no, we're going to do our own. And if they happen to come, that's great. But we'll just do our own.
Yeah.
Let me see. We're doing some aerator work down at the lake. You'll probably see some boats in the water. We got some electrical, about 250 foot of electrical line that fish hooks have been grabbing, and So we're going to replace that. Also, one of the first aerator, as soon as you get into the park, to the right is out. So we're getting a new aerator hopefully next week.
Got to keep one open.
It's just it was too noisy.
He wanted to know to close that one. I said, we need to have at least one door open. That's the good one to close.
And we are, I'm trying to, one of my goals is, been working a lot with the building department with Cecily. She's been doing a tremendous job. We're trying to streamline things, get it nice and orderly and nice and structured. So one of my goals is trying to get with the HOAs and have one big meeting and talk about some of the items that I see as a problem. Should the HOA, see permits prior to the city getting them, or the city, should reach out to the HOA? So I'd like to streamline that. So one of my goals is to get together with the HOAs, have a meeting, and see how we can help each other. And then also with code enforcement.
You're underselling what you're doing. One of the problems that we've had, and Becky, I know is very aware, is because the two processes of approval to do things have been separate, that sometimes the left hand and the right hand doesn't know what it's doing, and a lot of times our standards get caught in the middle and things aren't completed as an outcome as to how the intent of the restrictions were met. Paul's looking at making the city be the last step in the process with the approvals from the homeowners associations that are part of having a full, package, so that if there are differences in certain restrictions, the city's going to put the teeth to our permit process, because we've got the money, we've got the resources, that you have to be completed with the others. And it doesn't add anything there other than the people who are submitting that have to make sure they have their ducks in a row, because the city's going to be at the end of the process rather than at the beginning. And we really have the teeth to allow building to take place. And he was like saying streamlining and all things like that, but that's a real conscious decision that puts teeth to make sure that the two systems don't run together, that it's going to be, you're going to have to get approval from the homeowners association and have documentation that you have it, whichever one. And he's going through trying to resurrect, or at least get contact with all the homeowners associations that are active, and to see what to do with the ones that are inactive. But that's a really, really good effort that I think is going to see benefits that we may not recognize until you see how it's working. And 5 years down the road, it's gonna bring those restrictions all together. So I really appreciate them doing that.
And I think you explained that quite well, and I think it will be to everyone's advantage if it can happen.
Yep.
In
Yes,
that
ma'am.
manner, because they will be requesting all of the information, basically all the information you need.
Mhm.
Someone will be there to review it and get that in line before you ever have to
Have a building
before
permit.
the city ever
Correct.
has to handle it. And it should save your employees time.
Yes.
It should.
Yeah.
And also, I know of several situations, I'm not going to mention them, where it has created turmoil between neighbors. It didn't need to be. And you have some people who I will say it this way with all due respect to the homeowners, they don't have the enforcement capability that we do. They just don't. And they also don't have the funds that if somebody wants to go toe to toe, they will blink, because they don't have the means to be able to do that. So the city doesn't take on any of the real bureaucracy. All they're doing is saying, you've got to get your work done before you come to us. And
it's so much better if the city can have that power, and the homeowners.
And
I mean, I try to be.
I know
proactive.
people who have just said,
I try to be
screw it.
proactive.
I'm not gonna even submit to the homeowners and things.
Exactly.
And if we are at the front end, then none of those things get done. And this process will as us being at the end, I think we'll take a lot of, let me just call it like I do, take the shicky-micky out of it. It'll be fair, equitable, and not arbitrary. So I really like it.
And then actually, Officer Henderson with the code enforcement had a interview with the Nassau Bay Homeowners Association, and they just put it in their quarterly newsletter. And so, asking him questions, and he's talking about the role as code enforcement. So we're really trying to work on that. Cecily brought to my attention like driveway guidelines are different from the HOA than what we have. And so we need to really get with that and figure out what we want to do. So I'm pretty excited when this gets off the ground and starts ramping up. But
I want to say one more thing with this process that Paul's putting together. It's already had one win. There was another drug paraphernalia, smoke shop, pipe shop that was looking to come into the city. And it was not the one which was by Mediterranean. It was one that was going to try to go in next to, what's the restaurant there? Cafe.
Bon Appetit.
Bon Appetit, right next to Bon Appetit. There's a central thing there. But because he has there, the request came in. Paul and I talked about it. We went out there with range shooters. Thank God CVS is a clinic now. We have rules around having to be 750 feet from a clinic and things like that. They were also right at the 750 feet with the Catholic Church. And we were able to communicate that, and they have kind of decided, or hopefully decided, we haven't heard anything, but they've chosen where they were aggressively saying they were going to come at for a specific use permit. And I keep coming back to that process, as now that we've got that up and running, really is helpful for the citizens. And the permit process, catching that and making sure they go through all the things, caught that, and we were able to communicate. And I think they have chosen not to fight us. So I would hope that would be the case.
You mentioned 750 feet. Is that from the corner of the building, or is that from
property to property?
Property.
Mm-hmm.
Property to property. Yep.
And then we are really working with a couple grant. We're trying to get as much grants as we can. We actually had a meeting yesterday that Councilman Abbey set up. A really good couple grants out there for coastal erosion. And so we're looking at that. And actually, the discussion with me and Jaime, the finance director, is that maybe during budget season we're going to bring up if we need to. A lot of it's matching. 30%, 25%. So, it may be a good idea if we have some money ready for these grants in case we have to initiate that. But we're also looking at zero matching funds. But there's some really good grants out there, and we've have a team that we can consult with, and there actually are contractors to look for these grants for us. So pretty excited about that. And the last thing I had was couple of weeks ago, I was getting a lot of emails and calls about Frontier work coming in their yard and everything. So I've actually one-on-one with the general contractor for Frontier, and he knows that he doesn't come in Nassau Bay without notifying me. So I can notify the residents if they hadn't, to make sure what's the scope of work, and then what are they actually going to be doing. And so this last week, I worked with them actually through Saturday, I think, and 12 homes were restored with service. And so I'm hoping to now, get a little bit better reputation of you can't come into the city unless you notify us, because just popping up and start digging in people's backyards and tearing down fences is just not going to happen. So I actually,
What streets are affected?
it was 12 of them. I had the list. But the actual repair was on Antigua and Booth. One was on Booth Bay at Booth Bay and Point Lookout. And so, and it's just old, old cable. And what he said is they just don't make that no more. And so they have to splice in a new section with new stuff. He has my phone number. Like I said, Saturday, Sunday, he was contacting me. They got to give me 24-hour notice so I can get JR and his guys out there to mark all the utility lines, because if they hit them, they're paying for them.
That's exactly
And
right.
so a lot of good progress on that. So and I'm hoping to do that with the rest of the contractors out there. So my guys are really keeping an eye on what's going out in the city. So, and that's all I have, Mayor.
Yeah, I got a couple more things. What you'll hear also on council is we finally are locking down we're gonna pick a day during the week of May 6th. We're going to have a marine safety workshop. I'm walking into those waters. I believe we've got to review, boater safety coming around the creek, and I know Jim, that's a big one on yours. Just all the statutes around the Nassau Bay Cove. I think we've got to really have a discussion about where we want no wake and where we should have, no restrictions there. But I mean, right now I think we're too loose. I think there's just a lot of unsafe activity, and I don't think we've really tackled this since early 1990s. So what we have is in place, and part of that's also going to be signage as you come into our city, that we let people know, just what are the rules to being a boater in our city. And I really want to take it up a notch where we enforce even the things that, because we have the same powers as the Coast Guard, that people have the right number of life preservers, that they're not doing things where they don't have the safety devices on their boats, and particularly aren't dumping their waste into our area. We just don't do enough of that. So and the cove and other areas have gotten really busy, and I'm really worried, Brian. I think you mentioned this one time, which is as the more League City and others do their recreational development, down or upstream, we're going to have more boats coming through around our recreational, our park and things like that. And we've got already some real safety issues that I think we have to reaffirm, just what do we want, and make sure we enforce what we have. And then so that people understand it's just not the Wild West.
When you talk about signage and going into the area, did you take a look at where it comes into the area starting at Bayfront?
Yeah, I think I'm really glad you mentioned that. That's my intent. Is a lot of people forget about that's really that's where part of the start of it. And most people think around the peninsula, but that area, that's really the farthest north. And we're going to put signage elsewhere, and I'm glad you mentioned that. That's something that I didn't talk about.
I didn't hear what she was talking about.
She was saying with the signage, most of the times we focus on putting it at the peninsula, because we catch the people coming straight off from South Shore Harbor going up the creek, as well as if they take that right and come in across the peninsula. That's a standard place where we put signage. And I think she's saying, and I agree, it's up at the bayfront and in other areas, there's a lot of boating that goes on there, and that etiquette and that safety needs to be there too.
Can the etiquette extend to that Houston party boat till midnight with that loud music?
Yeah, I mean, that's right now, and that's what I'm going to, and the chief's aware of this.
I have fought that issue even with League City
I'm
and the hotel over there, because they used to have an office. That's where their office out of. I don't know if
we have an ordinance that says at night you can't be over 50 decibels. right? During the day, believe it or not, it's only 55. And I believe we haven't organized the resources to enable the police to be successful, that we are serious about these ordinances, and we need to put the resources in order to do it. And I say the same thing like around with sometimes with speeding and other ordinance, noise ordinance. I think we've really got to tighten those and to enforce that, so people, when they know they're in Nassau Bay. Many people don't know that Cove, and I'll start there, is zoned residential. It's not a park. It's not a recreational area. And many people, and my issue is 95% of the people who come into there aren't from our city. And I don't get me wrong, I love that with our parks. I love people coming in. I love sharing. I love a cold drink like everybody else. But there's also respect that has to happen, that this is a residential neighborhood, and music at 80 decibels at midnight doesn't work. It does, and we need to be able to say, hey, how are we going to do that? And that's a big part of what this workshop. And one of the big things that I see is just how do we really design no wake? How do we allow, for recognition of, if somebody drops an anchor, they're supposed to be, a distance from any fixed bulkhead, and people aren't doing that. The number of people and boats that tie up, I mean, right now we have it at 6, but you see people out there with 8, 10. And doing crazy stuff where they put one engine on and they're doing spin wheels out there. Somebody's going to get hurt. And it just gives a party atmosphere. And again, don't get me wrong, I like a party like everybody else, but at the same time, there's got to be some respect. And I don't think we have that. In fact, I know, from my vantage point, I've seen where the police are doing the things where they get kind of shouted at because people don't think they have jurisdiction there. And I plan to change that. They need to be respected.
When we're informing people with signage or whatever, it makes me wonder, these people out in these boats, when our boat people, when our guys go to check on them, is there any kind of handout we could give them with these rules?
Yeah, I don't know how you do that on the water. But I mean,
well, they go right up their boat.
You put it on there. I mean,
No, I'm saying the boats, our patrol boat goes right up against the other boats that are out.
Yeah, it could be to distribute.
Could they?
At least?
It seems to be repeat people. I see the same boats out there.
I have a simple. I'll come to you, but I have like, let me put it, the big club mentality, right? Which is, if they don't know our laws, then they can pay $250 to find out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did I say that well enough, guys? Tip of the spear, Pete. Tip of the spear. We can let them have a course for $250. Or what?
Do we find them right there?
We really have. What you can do, we have not done a lot of that, and I think that's one of the things that as we're now coming into our budget cycle, there's been a lot of discussion, and to do this, you got to plan for success. And I think we really have to say that's going to be an additional, capability that we want to have for our police department. We've got the tools, we got the physical tools, but there's going to be some manpower issues. And I know the volunteer fire department, God bless these guys. They like to be and train out on that boat. They're out there on a volunteer basis. A lot of times you have a police officer and a volunteer fireman out there, so that the firemen get a feel and are trained on the boat in case there's anything that happens to the Sapphire or anything like that, that they're not newbies on the boat. So they're out there, with that. But the only person who can really give an ordinance or a citation to our ordinance is a police officer.
So one of the great things, and it's a free service to everyone who owns a boat, is the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary's vessel inspection, vessel exam program. we get with one of, I'm in the auxiliary, been in the auxiliary close on 20 years now, but, one of the great things we can do is get with the local flotilla. There's one right out of Seabrook, and for the vessel examiners that do go out and provide these
Great
you
idea.
know, exams, they do a safety check on them. They basically do everything that a Coast Guard unit would do when they board to inspect that you have enough life jackets.
Yeah, if you look at our ordinances, we basically took the Coast Guard, language and inserted it into ours, so we have the same authority. We just don't have the 50 caliber gun that they have on them.
We also may want to make sure that we have, as the vessel exam requirements have changed over the years, we may also want to make sure that the ordinance is updated to reflect
Yeah.
the changes.
Yeah. But I mean, and I'm going to say it maybe on an emotional basis, is I see, and I didn't see it as much on Back Bay, where they do a lot on Sea Cove. As a number of neighbors take their golf carts with their kids and they drive there to Sea Cove to look over just to see how many, see the condition of out there. And it saddens me because I talk to people as they come in that they go, we just can't have our little kids out there and doing stuff with all the activity. It's just not safe. So they choose not to use the Cove. And I just think that's wrong.
And it is amazing how much.
You know as well as I, Becky, you're there too. It's
amazing.
They use it.
A voice and music carries across water.
Correct.
You can actually hear conversations, people talking out in
Yeah.
the middle of
If the wind is right.
at your house.
Yeah. If the wind is right.
My house is built such that the garage is an L shape and the garage extends forward, and it's like all the
Mhm.
music, all the noise comes in there and gets
And
caught right in that area.
I tell you, my heart also goes out to the people in Harbor Martinique. I think they are more of shoulder more of the burden, because people park over there or anchor over on the peninsula side, and they play their music loud.
It's just gonna get worse when the Hilton gets done with their renovations and puts in a bunch of slips.
I know. I think it's going to move to Bayfront. But it's got to be, but they're looking at potentially resurrecting their marina.
Couldn't they, if they do, when somebody checks into the Hilton, then maybe that wouldn't work, but you bring up your boat and park it at the Hilton, that the Hilton can hand out, here's the rules.
Correct. Correct.
For the, whatever, while you're anchored here. And
Not only
also,
that, but also, I mean, you hit up all the local dealers. I mean, you can just go down Marina Bay Drive in League City.
Correct.
Give our ordinance
Yep.
as a handout in, the West Marine. Go down into Kemah and Seabrook and all the little dealers there, bait shops.
And again, I come back to.
Line distribution.
I also come back to is, I know Holly Williamson has this great training course. It costs about $250.
And Ms. Moncrief,
Hitting them in their
Yeah.
pocket.
That's how you change behavior. I mean, I'm criticize me as you will, but I believe that's how you change behavior is like, I mean, some of the things like with speeding, we all know that Kirby is, and even before the school was put in there, El Lago and Taylor Lake Village worked that street because it was a big part of the entrances to a lot of their residential areas. And it was a tie between Nassau 1 and Restorff. You go 50 miles an hour on Kirby, you're getting a ticket. And you just know it because they work it. I'd like to have some things like that in our city where if you're not being respectful out on the water, they should feel like there's going to be somebody coming to say you're going to get a ticket. And if they want that type of behavior, Redfish is a great place to go. There's some things here, but we are a residential community, and loud noise of some of the most foul language that I've heard is just not being respectful of our neighborhood.
Hey, Phil,
Personal opinion.
So you say 95% estimate of what's going on in the Party Cove is outside of Nassau Bay?
A lot of it is. That's my number.
What would the number be for David Braun Park? outside of Nassau Bay, just roughly?
It would be much like, I would have to say 50-50 because we have a lot of people who are down there as part of our citizens.
Just curious,
Yeah.
in Ron Park, it's a pass-through area.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And they come off the 270 bridge, you go either go down the creek into Clear Lake or go up the creek. But
And
in Ron Park, they don't hang out there.
one of the things that I've also found, because as part of, I mean, if you notice, we've made a specific reach out to the churches to do invocations here, and that begins a relationship with the things here. I'm amazed at how many of the churches, when their congregations come in, grandparents take their children from church as part of a whole thing and go to our park. You'd be surprised with how big. And I don't know that may not be a Nassau Bay resident, but it's a Nassau Bay church resident, and there's a congregation that goes there. So, I think that's just healthy for our community, and I hope that also helps bring new families into the area for that.
Hey, Paul, when are you gonna complete putting the gate in at David Braun Park?
We actually got to get a couple more things was brought up, like a Knox box for the fire department and all that. So we're looking at that, and then we'll
Because of power, is it?
well, no, it's for them to access it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So if
All
we
the-
get
all-
all the power gets
all
knocked
emergency
out, we
response.
got to make sure they're able to get in there. Yeah.
Is there any update on that corner property right next to the Hilton? Was it Tim Leopard?
Yeah, he's actually waiting and wanting to see what the Hilton does, because the Hilton, and I'll say this, I can't say a lot here, but there's a lot of focus by Hilton on Ashford and Remington, who run that. I mean, it's a Hilton logo. They're really looking at the scope of the renovations, and there is a desire to make that truly a destination hotel because of the east and west developments that are taking place. You know, Great Wolf and Margaritaville, as well as Texas A&M. Now, for them to compete, they've got to upgrade their facilities, and that includes the pool area down there and what's all there. So I think he's waiting to maybe make modifications depending on the outcome of that reinvestment plan.
So he's still looking at making that residential.
He's actually looking at two different things. He's looking at residential as well as, you know, a commercial area where you would have almost like what's in the plans that I've seen floated, which is they've copied what's happened on the waterfront in Amsterdam, where they have these floating rooms that are used as overnight stays, and then use the land as a community pool, use it as where there's a restaurant, things along that line to facilitate that.
So Phil, so city council, you approved him for 14 new
Correct.
units. He's not doing that. He's choosing now to do
He,
another.
he has not chosen one way or the other. I think he's waiting to see what the Hilton does.
It's too bad because he was so gung ho to get going, and now
Yeah.
it just stays undeveloped.
Well, I think I think he's looking at it, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I mean, I think depending on what the Hilton does will depend on whether or not residential or some other type of things will take place. Because if he puts in high value condos and it becomes an area where it's that resort area has more activity, it may not be conducive. So we'll see.
Well, actually, that's one thing I want to talk about. And that's interesting. But while he's waiting, can he clean it up a little?
Yeah, we'll. That's a great comment. Yeah, great comment.
That was one of
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Yes. Yeah.
It's so unsightly, and that's again one of our entrances.
No, it is probably one of the bigger entrances because people coming there, and it's going to get even more so when you know you as 146 and people see the traffic patterns and what all that does. I believe more traffic's going to come across because we are the I-45 and 146. Nassau 1 is the connector now. There's no question.
And you can tell it.
You can.
Actually, we're getting a lot more.
That was,
traffic.
that's why, I'll do here, because I know there'll be a discussion, is that's why I wanted a traffic study for what's going on at the Luby's, is just to make sure we understand that, because there's traffic is going to be something we have to manage.
Right.
Have you gotten that traffic study completed yet?
No, we're about 90,
Yeah,
so just to, and if they're watching, because they've asked, and I think Dick Gregg has mentioned to them, is that we just could not get it done for this April meeting, so the SUP will not be on the agenda for Monday. So,
Well, in line with cleaning that one up, and maybe this has been discussed before, what about the entrance on Upper Bay, the old service station over there? That is so awful.
yep.
Is there anything that the city can do as far as?
So we've already done some stuff. I mean, as much as you say it's unsightly, it is leagues better than it used to be. The parking lot is gone, right?
There's still so much stuff out there.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I noticed was, could they even trim some of that landscaping? Like, there's a big clump of
Yeah, we can.
palm trees that's closer to Upper Bay, the actual Upper Bay Road. And that's just.
That's a pet peeve of mine too. And we got Officer Henderson. He got the box gone. He's working it. It's a continual pull with that property. So, and I know they're looking at wanting to sell that property or develop. I know they're looking at wanting to sell or develop that property. So we'll see what comes.
So it's still under ownership.
It is.
So it hasn't been eminent domain by the city.
It has not. It is not. Yeah, and I'm hesitant to do an eminent domain, because the way the laws have changed out of Austin, our probability of success is quite low. And from my perspective, for the money that we have to expend, because I think there's better ways to do it, and because I believe the efforts that we're doing in looking at redevelopment down, in some of our older buildings, that would be a corridor for, that would make a lot of sense to just have the property there, that little side strip, as well as you got the old bank, you got the property right next to City Hall, all that leading as you go into, right there to the waterfront. So
Well, that, again, that's one of our main entrances.
it is.
And just, it's just so unsightly.
Yep.
That if the city could just do a little bit more, like I said, mainly.
I mean, one of the things that really, and I don't want to go on too long, but I mean, I guess it was the old Prudential building, which became Tackle, and now it's a Valero, right?
Yes.
As the progression, and that's something I'd really, because that is a main thoroughfare to our waterfront, so it's high on my priority in that whole corridor. So, yep.
Hey, Bill, so it's my understanding, can you confirm or deny that Luby's permit for demolition was approved, and that's gonna happen?
They have not submitted a permit.
They did.
Did they?
Demo.
For demo?
For demo.
Yeah, I had not heard. I've been gone on vacation. When
Yeah.
they just did that?
Last week, beginning of last week, the demo, just the demo permit.
Yeah. So
So Paul, do you know when they're gonna demo it while we're waiting for the city here?
No, I'd have to follow up on that.
my bet is they're going to wait for whether or not to get the SUP. I would. So.
Every month we wait, Phil, it costs the city almost $5,000 in lost tax revenue from
Understand.
those two restaurants.
Understand?
Any updates on Nate Jameson's house?
Yeah. Well, so they've been formally notified they're in default of contract. Okay. And right now, we're putting forward, there's going to be a meeting between Paul and I and our legal and their legal, that for us to issue a permit, there needs to be we're proposing a monthly update and inspection that they're on track because they've been in default of their contract. Otherwise, we're moving to demolition.
She got that,
Yeah.
that early this morning, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's claiming that there was some breakdown between her contractor and herself, and that had stalled her progress. And is in
It's not our monkey.
and has now saying she's meeting with her new contractor.
Well,
But I had seen that, and in my mind, again, I come back to it. We know the difficulties here. We put that contract in place because we wanted to make sure that if things continued like history has seen, that it augmented our ability to take action. And that's where things are, is that contract is very important, as if we have to, if we now have to move to a different path,
right.
that the probability of success is very high.
Now,
If that helps you.
does the renovations and stuff on this property, does that include any exterior?
It does.
anything?
It
Like
does.
that post that has been propping up that fence for 3 years?
It is.
And the
So all the
and
fencing
dead
is going to be
pine tree.
replaced. All the fencing is going to be replaced.
Well, there's a dead pine tree there too.
Yeah, that's, we're dealing with the structures, not the things. Is that a cypress? Is that what it is? Is it a dead
I don't know,
cypress?
It's some kind of a fir tree.
Evergreen,
Evergreen, yeah.
Correct. I think it's a
No
cypress.
longer evergreen.
Yeah, it's ever brown. But just to answer your question, we did not have the trees as the scope because that was not considered.
I
But-
understand that, but I'm saying before the city signs off and says, okay, you're fine, are those things?
We'd have, yeah, so we can, obviously, they're in default of contract, so any plan that we put together is free game, in my mind, right? And I don't know how much authority we have on dictating landscaping, but I'm just, I want to tread, I'm balancing between that's the home of a moonwalker versus it's a dilapidated building that either needs major work or needs to go away.
Well, I guess my opinion on that, again, strictly my opinion. If you put a sign out in that yard that says, Jim Irwin lived here, it doesn't matter. People that are driving by aren't gonna say, oh, well, that's not the house he lived in. The house he lived in looked like that. People aren't gonna know. If there is a structure on that property, people are gonna think that's where he lived. Is that really, a big deal?
I
You see
mean,
what I'm saying?
depending on who you talk to, the answer could be yes or no. I know a lot of people want to maintain some of the history that we've had with NASA and with him being a moonwalker. That has some historic appeal. There's others, and I always side with this. I believe that's a nuisance property. I believe no matter what the historical context is, and don't get me wrong, I have a whole lot of sensitivity for that. But if you've got a unsafe, accessible building that has structural failure, somebody's going to get hurt at some point. And it's unfair to the other citizens around there, and that's my driver.
Right, but I'm just saying, a house is a house. And the general population of the world that come through Nassau Bay to look at where the astronauts, they don't know what Jim Irwin's house looked like.
True.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
And if there's a structure there, there it is, that's that house. I suppose,
Yeah, I do know, because I used to live over there where Buzz Aldrin used to live over on Carriage Court. I know there's people who have gone into that house and who bought it because they have such they can almost touch, that they had that building was the same hallway the hallways were the same when Buzz were there as when they're living there, and that's an appeal. And I get that too.
Right.
But I have a
This house
hierarchy.
has no-
I have a
this house has-
hierarchy. That's a lower hierarchy than,
This house has no appeal at all.
yeah, that's,
Positive, negative, or otherwise.
but my view is again, either it's not that hard. And the problem is there's legal things, but fix it or take it down.
Exactly.
I'd really love them to fix it nicely as to the standards of the city, but if there's not that will, don't put the neighbors through the issues that they have with a structurally vacant, you know what I mean? That's what it is. It's a vacant, dilapidated house that hits everybody's home values. It's everybody's home values. So fix it or knock it down.
Just want to acknowledge that the chief of police and Officer Moses Velasco came over and gave an active shooter training at Glory Day last
Yep,
week.
I'm aware of that.
And I
Yep.
think he spread it out to the different places. Greg and I go to different churches right now.
Yep.
It's great. And he found out about it. How did he
I,
find
I
out?
understand they've reached out to each of the churches and they have a plan to help out as
People learned a lot. It was good.
Yep.
And I think one of the key things that I asked the chief was, when people call in, because of the multi-city difficulty, it's so goofy in how the lines work, and he said, just listen to what the dispatcher has to say. Dispatcher asks you questions, is an EMS after shooter training, and listen, when you make the phone call into the EMS or 911, listen and follow the instructions of the postman, or the dispatcher.
Good. Okay.
Where is the Lakeside Lane text stop signage at?
I have to look.
What's your real question?
Sign.
What's that?
Well, I've been asking for a while about, as you enter off an answer
Yeah.
one, and all of Nassau Bay has signage. Well, that particular sign in Ball Harbor,
Yeah.
was taken out a while back. And so I've been asking, can it please be reordered to TxDOT that Lakeside Lane, who has no signage except for the little original lights that are
Yeah.
way back, you can't
I'll look
see it,
into it.
Yeah.
be replaced.
Yeah.
And.
Fair question.
Yep, I'll email it today.
Yeah. Fair question.
Yep.
Yeah. I think the answer is yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so it'll go back on the order block?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
I'll follow.
I think we can facilitate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Lopez, could you also ask them to take a look at the lights? There's some lights out there too.
The black decorative lights, the,
No, I think
They're big.
Street lights?
They're big.
Center point.
the yellow ones, kind of the yellow ones at night, they look kind of amber.
Yeah.
That one?
If the lights are on, yes.
Okay, okay, yeah.
if I remember, there's a number of those lights that are out. This is not the first time we've heard that. They're not real response. I'm of the point, and I know it's not real. I still say it, but I wish we could sign some sort of deal that says for lighting, just changing light bulbs, that the city's authorized by CenterPoint to do that. They'd make more money because the lights would work, and we would have the value of the lights. It seems like a win-win, but
The
it's
one on that corner's been out
forever.
Yeah, and those,
It's a danger.
It is. I agree. I agree.
I've actually had conversations last 2 weeks with TxDOT about they want to implement take out the old, because that's all hypersodium lights that are going out.
Yeah.
And so put an LED, and I asked them, well, what's our cost? And I hadn't got a response back yet. But those lights they're kind of a pain because they're daisy chained. And so if something cuts that line, then the rest of them
Yeah,
go
that's
out.
right.
It's just, I'm not real happy with those lights. So.
Yeah, I agree. But their customer service in that regard is poor. Is poor. Okay, how we doing time?
It's right at
10
10
o'clock.
yeah. And
What
it's-
else?
And it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Well, no, 4:40.
Almost.
Almost 5 o'clock somewhere
Yeah.
here. Any other questions? Anything else? Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, I do have one thing here, and this is a surprise to Paul. I think most of you know my father passed away, and my mom lives by herself up in Virginia. I'm going to be flying out. My family put some things together to have a surprise birthday party for my 95-year-old mom, and so I won't be here. I don't know if that's going to be something you're going to want to
For
do
when?
here for tomorrow, for our 10 o'clock.
Oh, okay. No,
tomorrow.
I can still be here.
Is the that I've got to be away to. My mom's been how should I say, never alone for 95 years, and now she's been alone for 3 months, and family's trying to do that. So I'm going to be flying out at about 3 o'clock this afternoon with my wife to just make sure she knows she's loved. So okay,
Sure.
okay, all righty.
Thank you.
Thank for the coffee and the donuts.
Thank the city for the call.
Yes.
The
Yes.
coffee.
Thanks,
You
Brian.
got the donuts. Are those parlor donuts?
These are